My understanding is this is certainly not the only instance where this organization has made some eyebrow-raising claims or statements. So you as the expert, I know you've looked quite a bit into this organization. Are there any sort of notable examples that stick out to you?
Yeah, more prominently and more recently, the chair of the organization during the Freedom Convoy protests did take a photo of a very anti-Semitic conspiratorial flyer and say this was found by my friend at the convoy protests. Turns out that photo came from it was taken a while ago in Miami at a completely different event, so it really had no connection to the Freedom Convoy protests, but it was shared around at the time, for example. Um, in terms of other
Sorry,
types
did
of
the chair? So
claims,
if I can ask you about that flyer, Jamie, was there ever a apology, or was that taken down, and like was it sort of clarified that that was not actually something from the convoy?
after it had blown up in the news, I don't recall if it was. I can't recall that,
Hmm.
but what I remember what happening is it just dying out, similar to there was a hoax where some individuals tried to set fire to an apartment that was originally discussed as if it was connected to the Freedom Convoy, when really it was not. It was just a couple bad actors at that place at that time with no connection. So no, I can't recall if it was retracted actually, but it had. I know it had circulated widely in that time.
Interesting. And any other examples that leap to mind for you for this organization?
Well, throughout various times across their website, they have discussed that freedom of speech should be limited in situations when it comes to media, when it comes to online engagement. Um, so, so broadly, no specific claims online, but a general want to regulate speech at a greater degree. They've also appeared in House of Commons committees as well, discussing hatred and online harms. My view is they take a rather expansive view and often use the opportunity to uh, point out problems with conservatism when it comes to extremism, but not really
Hmm.
anyone else.
That's interesting because I know they also present themselves as a nonpartisan organization. In your view, sort of, watching their comments or reading their comments that they've made publicly, is that the case? Do you think that they are, do they are they fair critics across the board, or do they tend to focus on one side of the spectrum rather than the other?
I find they tend to focus on one side. They're more focused with far right extremism, and that's the big focus for them. They're a federally incorporated nonprofit. They don't have formal partisan ties, but it often happens where their talking points and their advocacy often lines up very neatly with what the federal government wishes to do in the Canadian Heritage Department, which is focus greatly on far right extremism um, rather than broader cultural issues of unity in Canada and just general disenfranchisement. It's rather of a political bent, is what you see. They've even appeared on CBC, for example, to discuss uh, protests at liberal campaign speeches just from far right extremism points, when really we've seen a lot more protests in general at political gatherings just because of people being disenfranchised and frustrated with government.
Do you think it's fair to say that they do not take a very robust view of free speech?
I would say so. They liken this kind of discussion of online harm as the equivalent to yelling fire in a crowded theater, which is a bit of a stretch, really, because first of all, yelling fire in a crowded theater, making everyone fear for their lives, that is already, that's considered causing a disturbance in some ways. There are ways to deal with that kind of speech already under our current law. Um, what they want to do is sort of extend that into, or what they appear to be want to be doing is extend that into just general political disagreement.
Hmm.
So, voicing support for Trump wanting to build a wall, for example, which is a policy to regulate a border, You might think
Right.
it's problematic. You might think there are problems with it, but they're saying that that needs to be quickly corrected by a teacher to step in.
Yeah.